Underway. Dr. Mitra, always a pleasure, sir. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. The Global Business Summit is currently underway in your state, sir. If I could ask you to give us a sense of what transpired post the MOUs that were signed in 2017. I'm taking a look at the statement that had come in from your government at the end of the Business Summit of 2017, and about 2,35,290 crores in terms of investments, expressions of interest had been signed at the end of the Business Summit in 2017. How much of that is actually translated into work on the ground, investments into the ground, sir?
I think it's important for us to take a look at the three summits that have taken place, 2015, 2016 and 2017. I want to tell you that I'm so delighted that close to 50% of the projects proposed are on the ground today, for which we have in fact, Mamata Banerjee speaking in the concluding session, mentioned this specifically. Because we are looking at implementation, not of offer only. You will see other states. I know a state that I don't want to name. 2 summits before, they had 1.4% of their investment offers fructified. The minute the summit gets over, our entire team and every department sits together, and every month they have to explain how much of this has been done, and Mamata Banerjee herself takes a meeting every 3 months. Saying, where are we? So result of that is, close to 50% of these 3 summits, this being the 4th, has in fact fructified on the ground. And we see, and the result of that is, that our GDP growth is phenomenally higher than India. Our GDP has more than doubled in 5 years, from 4.5 lakh crores. We have gone to 10.5 lakh crores. Obviously, investment is happening. Keynesian multiplier effect is happening. But we have to take it more and more and deeper and deeper. And this year's summit, as you know, was the creme de la creme. I mean, Mukesh Ambani, Lakshmi Mittal, Mr. Jindal, who opened his plant for cement, inaugurated by Mamata Banerjee the day before. 2.5 million tons, going to 5 million tons, he said he'll double it in 1 year. So it's that's an example that things are happening. Does anybody know that the $1 billion US has been invested in a fertilizer plant, the only plant in the world using coal bed methane in West Bengal by Matix. 7,700 crores on the ground. And using coal bed methane.
So if I could ask you for details, at the end of the 2018 summit, sir, we've just talked about 2017, where the large share of the proposed investments were for manufacturing and infrastructure, followed by food processing, fisheries, IT, ITES and telecom, transport, education and skills. Those were the top 5 sectors where you received your largest share of expressions of interest at the end of the 2017 summit. Can you share with us the details of what has happened this year, sir, in terms of the new EOIs that have been signed?
You know, there are 2 elements, Shirinji, for this year's summit which are really interesting. One is, out of the 2 lakh, almost 20,000, 2,19,925 crores offered, majority of it is in manufacturing and infrastructure. That means Bengal is rising. It used to be the manufacturing capital of India, competing only with Maharashtra at one time. This is very interesting to me, that much more than half, 1,56,000 of the 2,20,000 is in manufacturing and infrastructure, which are asset creating. And the second element of this time summit is jobs, jobs and jobs. I mean, imagine the Kanpur leather people came and signed an MOU and said, we want to come to Bengal and we're going to give you 1 lakh jobs. Now, that is something stunning. Mr. Mukesh Ambani said, I'm going to invest 5,000 crores and over time I'm going to provide 1 lakh jobs or more, or whatever the number he gave. jobs. So labor intensive sectors, whether it's leather, gems and jewelry, whether it's food processing. So the two elements are, on one hand you have manufacturing, which is the predominant offer of investment. As you know, Pranab Adani, he came and said, this is what I'm going to do. And Jindal has already done so. So jobs and jobs on one hand, and manufacturing and infrastructure on the other. This is the winning combination, along with the fact that 9 countries became partner countries spontaneously. We have no danda.
Right.
It has to be spontaneous. China is not a partner country,
danda, it has
but
to
came
be
with a big delegation.
Okay. Let me then ask you, sir, because, you know, the last conversation that you and I had, I think that was when you launched the Bengal Business Summit, you had spoken about the aspiration of positioning Bengal as the hub, as the corridor to the east. Where have things actually transpired since that plan that was put in place? What can we now realistically expect in terms of you being able to realize that promise and potential?
I think that's a very important question. Let me tell you, the export from Bengal in 16-17 has been $8.5 billion US. 8.5 billion. Now, quite a bit of that export is an integrative export to the northeast. Bangladesh today is working with us. We are working with them. Nepal, Bhutan, and now the new development in this summit was the fact that from ASEAN, the largest industrialist of Thailand, Mr. Alok Lohia, $7.5 billion turnover, was here in this summit, never seen before. Therefore, we are seeing ourselves reaching into the ASEAN territory for investment flows into West Bengal, which then goes back as exports to ASEAN. So I think things are beginning to move. Now Poland becomes a partner country. Why? Outside of this region, because they have the deepest mine in the world, 1,200 meters coal mine, 1,400 meters copper mine. We have the world's second largest coal deposit, Deochapachami. So there's a synergy there. So it's not only this region, you're seeing synergies with the entire Europeans who have come as partner countries, not just speaking in words. Italy, France, Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, UK. South Korea's governor comes from a state that has huge turnover, largest steel plant in the world in the state, largest petrochemical plant in the state, comes here with a big delegation. Why? Because we are becoming the hubs for these things in this region, which will then connect with ASEAN and everybody else.
Okay, let me ask you some specific questions, sir, and I want to ask you about the GST because you're not here in the capital as the GST Council meets today. It's another crucial meeting of the GST Council. There's lots on the agenda, including further simplification of the returns filing process, perhaps some rate rationalization, etc. I want to ask you, sir, in terms of simplification of returns, do you believe that the need of the hour is convergence of the 3 forms into one, or do you believe that let the system stabilize for now? What is your own view, sir?
See, let me submit to you that I have written a formal letter to the Union Finance Minister, since I couldn't be there, giving exact details. Let me tell your listeners that the GST network was to process 300 crores of invoices per month. 300 crores. Can you imagine what, 30 million? Now obviously that system is not working. The small and medium enterprises are not able to uplink. Every state is being compensated by the center because they are not able to reach the 14% rate of growth. Now West Bengal is doing better. We are getting compensated, but a small amount because we were completely digitized. So our people could migrate more easily, but our small and medium enterprises are in very bad shape. I had repeatedly said, please do not launch GST on 1st of July because you are not prepared. You have done a beta test of only 200 companies per state and 30% of that has failed. So forms, you have
But
GSTR1, you have GSTR2, you have GSTR3. And you have, don't
so you
forget
believe that they should be converged into one?
Which is a kind of a small firm.
Do you believe that they should be converged into one,
sir? It's not a question of converting into one. You see, the idea is that you converge in a manner which will be uplinked successfully. Why are states not getting enough taxes? Through GST. Most of their taxes have gone up in the sense that some have come down, some have gone up. Because it's a complete mess. That you first introduce 3 forms, then you fail, then you introduce one single form which is supposed to be good, but people are not able to uplink. Now my question is, world's largest fiscal reform, is this the way to do it? You do tryst with destiny in the Parliament Central Hall on 1st of July. Hello? You're not ready.
Right.
Systems are not ready. I said this repeatedly in 1st of July.
Okay.
Lot of finance ministers have come privately, including some BJP ministers, saying you were right. Let's fight to see that we can do a better deal for our small and medium enterprises.
Okay. So speaking of changes, sir, the e-way bill rollout, the trial is currently underway. The e-way bill will roll out from the 1st of February. In terms of readiness, are you ready for the e-way bill system, sir? And do you believe, as we've heard from a lot of other state finance ministers, that the e-way bill will in fact plug leakages and we could see a significant uptick in the revenue collection? Do you believe that?
You'll be interested to know West Bengal has an electronic e-way bill for which we have no check posts for the last 2 years. 1% entry tax, self-declared, electronically carrying it with the driver, no check post. Now, it has, ours is one of the most successful electronic models which you are calling e-way bill. So for us, there's no problem. But do you know all of Northeast does not have e-way bill? At least 5 larger states still don't have a successful e-way bill. You're looking at Bihar. Now there are check posts. There are different rates for entry taxes earlier. And there's huge corruption. According to their own former finance minister, who's now deputy chief minister, he called me once to ask me, how are you able to manage this electronically? Absolutely I support the e-way bill because we have experimented, we're successful. But problem is there are many states who are not prepared. Has there been a white paper on that? Has there been a white paper on the GST as a whole? At least respect the GST Council and present a white paper saying, look, this is the state. As far as we are concerned, e-way bill, we are way ahead of the e-way bill. We're doing it for the last 3 years. But are all states ready? 1st of February is a good date. But I would say empower the states to be able to implement it. On the 1st of February.
Dr. Mitra,
then there is, don't forget, this interstate way bill. Yes.
Yes. No, go ahead, sir.
An interstate way bill was supposed to be from 1st of June. Can you imagine what a mess that can make? Where every 10, 20, 30 kilometers you'll be stopped or electronically checked. Is that a simple system? But at least we have to work towards it. Where is the white paper on that?
Right.
What will happen to the whole Northeast? Seven sisters plus Sikkim? What will happen to at least 5 other states I know whose finance ministers are telling me we are not ready? So we have to work together.
So you're saying West Bengal is ready, but you have to work together.
In the center.
Let me just give you an update, Dr. Mitra, what is transpired. Yes, let me just give you an update on what is transpired at that meeting, sir. The Uttarakhand Finance Minister telling CNBC TV 18 that 29 handicraft items have been kept at 0%. Some rates have been cut on other items as well. They have reduced the rates on some agri parts, which was the expected assumption, and that the GST Council is now going to meet again via video conference to take up return modification. So clearly a decision on return modification has not been taken just yet. The GST Council is likely to meet again in 10 days' time to take up the issue of return modification. A quick comment from you, Dr. Mitra, on this.
I just said, even without knowing the outcome, that the returns are in a mess. And so I fully understand why they couldn't come to a conclusion. because you have 3 different forms, then you have a 4th form. Now you cannot uplink 300 crores in a month. The GSTN is not ready. So you can have a video conference, fine. But are we ready? We have to proceed on this. If you do this in a hurry on 1st of July without knowing what uncharted process you're going to, like demonetization, unfortunately your revenue of states will suffer. Centre will be forced to compensate them as per constitutional requirement. Centre's own revenues will be at risk, and fiscal deficit will become a challenge for the centre.
Right, right. What's your own projection, Dr. Mitra, in terms of revenue collections? Do you believe that we've now seen the worst as far as revenue collections are concerned on GST, and do you expect a pick-up from here on, sir?
See, if you look at July, our revenue collections were pretty reasonable. It started coming down in October. It fell to 83,000 crores. Now, if you look at the Gujarat Committee report of the Parliament, you will find the Gujarat Committee report says that even for exports, exporters earlier they did not pay any taxes. They just filled the H form. Now they have to first pay taxes and then seek refund. And do you know that 40 crores per company of a medium-sized company are stuck with the government, not getting refund? So your exports are going to suffer badly. It has already started, and Gujarat Committee report to the Parliament says October was terrible. And they say from 15% being blocked, it will go to, if it goes to 20%, you're in danger line. And the biggest question your listeners must understand is the minute you cannot get that refund from the government, your working capital goes down, and who gets hurt? The contract workers, the job workers. In West Bengal, my gold job workers have lost their jobs. Because the companies, they're stuck with their refunds with the central government. This is terrible. So it's going to hurt exports. It's going to hurt common small businesses. Please do something about that. I have written all this in my letter.
My final question then, Dr. Mitra, to you, sir. The budget is just around the corner, sir. Barely 2 weeks left for the budget. Today we had finance ministers of states meet with the Union Finance Minister. What would your key recommendation be for the budget for Finance Minister Jaitley?
Well, I can only say that during this period of since demonetization, your GDP growth rate has fallen. 4 years low. At the same time, introduction of GST after demonetization, we are stumbling. Do you know that gross capital formation grew by 0.59%? That means investment grew by less than 1%. So what is he going to do in the budget? Is it going to be a populist budget because it's the last budget before the elections and give away money and then have a problem with his fiscal deficit and revenue deficit issues?
But that looks unlikely,
I don't know.
sir.
He's in a
that
corner.
looks unlikely if you look at what. But this business of throwing away money looks unlikely, sir, given the fact that just yesterday the government has actually said that it's not going to borrow the proposed 50,000 crores that it had planned to. It's only going to borrow 20,000 crores. So that doesn't give a picture of a government that's likely to go into being fiscally profligate, sir.
What I'm saying to you is that FRBM Act, which restricts your borrowing, we as states are sticking to the FRBM. Centre does not have an FRBM. It may be saying this today. You know what happens in reality? You augment borrowing. You announce something, over time you realize that you can't do it, then you start borrowing, you break the FRBM limit because they don't have an FRBM limit, all states do. We have passed a legislation. I cannot cross my FRBM limit, which is 3% of my GDP. But they don't have an FRBM limit, officially passed by legislature. Therefore, my concern is, this is show of saying we will borrow less. When it comes down, I give you my guarantee, and we'll come back and see this in 6-8 months' time when we talk again, that they are borrowing immensely. The banks are in bad shape, you know that. Non-performing asset levels are very high. So the Honorable Union Finance Minister has to handle this. low growth rate, low capital formation, banks in bad shape in terms of NPAs. Where is he going to get the money from? And then you need a populist budget for electoral purpose, which means more spending. So to me, I would hate to be in his shoes.
Yes, I think it is a difficult job that the finance minister finds himself in, a difficult situation. But Dr. Mitra, before I let you go, sir, very quickly, areas of priority and focus for your government, sir, to ensure that you continue to grow at a faster clip.
Well, I think Mukesh Ambani, Mr. Jindal, Mr. Adani, they didn't come to this conference because they had some reason to come, excepting for their trust of Mamata Banerjee. Top CEOs have to trust the leader. They have to trust the transparency. Each one of them. Mukesh said, I had intended to invest 4,500 crores in Bengal. I have invested 15,000 crores. Then he promised 5,000 crores more of investment in the summit. I'm sure if you go by the past record, it will become 20,000 crores. Even handset manufacturing he may do in West Bengal, he said. So what I'm saying to you is our growth rate is much higher than India. Our capital formation has grown by 7.5 times, asset creating, permanent structures, and taxes have doubled, which is a record in India, because of e-taxation, for which the central government has given West Bengal an award. Do you know, Shirinji, 10 days ago, Union government gave us an award for e-taxation being #1 out of 24 states.
Well, congratulations to you on that,
we have to just keep the pace.
But right. Well, we will have to leave it there. So thanks very much for joining us to take us through the outcomes of the Bengal summit, as well as your thoughts on the GST meeting that is currently underway. Appreciate your time. That's the West Bengal Finance